Administration argues that the level of interest payments rather than the size of the debt is the most relevant benchmark. Okay, rewind. The administration argues that the level of interest payments rather than the size of debt is the most relevant benchmark for whether debt burdens the economy. That is the most asinine statement I have ever heard, and either these people in this administration are the most gullible, uneducated, unqualified in world history to run a country, or they're lying to you and they're trying to fleece, heist, and shyst you, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just playing you right now so they can try to justify their debt. The reason that is the most asinine statement, you should be having your critical thinking already on right now, because they're saying it's the interest on the debt that matters. Well, tomorrow, what if interest rates go up by 5%? Well, you're fucked now, and you're really fucked, and you have to default because you can't even make the payments on the debt already, let alone if tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, the interest payments go up because interest rates rise. That's why that's just ask yourself in the United States, if you live here, think real quick right now in 2004, 5, 6, and 7, when they were giving you adjustable rate mortgages to buy a house with virtually no money down, as little as $3,000 on a $200,000 mortgage. And they said, you can't afford the house, but we're going to give you a 1% or 2% or 3% interest rate right now at $3,000 down on a $200,000 house. But it's a variable rate. So at the current interest rate and their philosophy, the homeowners are great, right? And all the Americans were fat and happy paying 1%. Yeah, I'm fat and happy, because the most important thing was not the size of their debt. It was the current interest payment, right? And since it was affordable with such cheap interest, the homeowners took the bait. Well, what happened as interest rates and their adjustable rate mortgages had to readjust at the same time? Just so happens, interest rates skyrocketed from very low rates to just a little bit higher of low rates, but skyrocketing from where they were at. All these Americans that took the bait because the debt was cheap, like this administration argues that the level of interest payments rather than the size of debt is the most relevant. So all the American homeowners said, we're going to look at the interest payment because when it's 1%, I can afford it rather than the size of the debt that I know I can't afford, right? And then when their adjustable rate mortgages came time to come up, which the whole United States government debt is all one big adjustable rate mortgage because interest rates change. They're only this low right now because the government's trying to suppress them, but eventually inflation, as you're seeing take off, is either going to skyrocket and devalue the dollar and kill it, or they're going to have to raise interest rates, which they can't because then the whole federal government will have to default, right? And that's going to be a disaster either way. But those homeowners, as I digress there, showing you kind of how her statement's asinine, when those homeowners interest payments and the ones they got in 04, 5, and 6, and later 06, 7, and 8, when it became time for the adjustable rates to be adjusted, the interest now was skyrocketing because there was a financial collapse. And these homeowners now, because of the size of the debt that should have been the most important thing rather than the interest payment, when the interest payments rose, their home mortgage nearly doubled, right? So they had to live there and then mail in the keys. In Peter Schiff's terms, mail in the keys, because the debt was really what should have been the most important thing on the homeowner's mind instead of the quick, everything's going to be rosy and sunny because the interest payment's low. This is an asinine administration, and they're either the most unqualified people to ever be in power of a major country or any city, treasury, or even a condo association ever, or they're lying to you and they're fleece, heisting, and shysting the American people. I think it's the latter. I think they're fleece, heisting, and shysting us, right? Deficits. The government would spend $1.8 trillion more than it projected to take in next year. This is a disaster, right? Now let's look at some of this shit. Let's look at the federal balance shit. Where are we going to go real quick? Yeah, so I'll give you coin updates, maybe in this video. Central banking. This is a good one. This is straight out of the Fed, St. Louis Fed. Total assets from consolidation Wednesday levels. So today, the United States government had a balance sheet of about $8 million they bought of whatever the fuck they're buying here, bonds or some shit. Look at that. Every year it just goes up. And you say, well, why is it only starting in 2005? Because the balance sheet for this started at that financial collapse at 744,000, right? Wasn't even a million yet. And then bam, 2 million. Then look at in 2014, remember in the U.S. when the economy started rolling over, this is why. This was them trying to taper when they said, remember back here, they said we're going to eventually get to normal. Well, they said we're going to start getting to normal here. And they had $4.485 million a day on the balance sheet. And they started tapering. And by April 18th, 2018, when they started tapering in 2014, the economy was rolling over until President Trump, future President Trump wins an election, and then they could continue to taper. But this was starting to roll the economy over. When you say, well, where the fuck's the tapering? It started at about 44.89, 45, and the economy rolled over at 44.50. Yeah, that's how fucked it is. And remember, back here, they said it was temporary and it would eventually go back to zero, where it started from, zero. Well, the closest it got to zero was 33.8 million, and now look, bam. Because the more in debt you go, the more in debt you need to keep the whole thing, the illusion of the whole thing going. So when it used to be 100,000s, then it became millions, then it became 100 millions, then it became billions. You know, it's just like right now it's $8 million a day. This time next year it'll be $12 million a day, then $50 million a day, then $100 million a day. Like, you know, it's a disaster. But I'm going to give you some updates later. I got more things to talk about here, like subscribe and share. Fiscal and Monetary Policy Fridays. I am not a financial advisor nor appoint one on my own radio show. This is strictly educational and entertainment purposes only. I cannot recommend, tell you to, or sell you any kind of stocks, commodities, securities, or any of that other shit. This is strictly my own personal opinion and what I do and what I believe. Blah, 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 blah. Peace and love. Peace and love.